going to be for the fireplace. So, bit by bit, working on it here. So that's my handles done. Just got to clean them up a bit. Actually, I'm going to pass this one to the fire before I clean it off. But a shop like this, the majority of the work you'd be doing would be shoeing the horses, putting the horseshoes on. That's most of the work you'd be doing. We're long past, everything here is set to the year 1914, so we're long past the time when you'd be making all the tools and hardware for everybody else in town. It's much more of a service. So you're repairing wagons and carriages, that kind of thing. More and more you'd be working on people's cars. That was becoming more common. Basically just any work that came by. But even the horseshoes, you could get pre-made from the factory, so you just have to fit them with the horse. So times have changed for the blacksmith, but this is still a very good line of work at the end of 1914. Good afternoon. You don't want to cover your ears. This isn't the worst time to do it. So you just put a little notch in the steel this way. This is actually breaking up the internal crystalline structure of the steel just to make it more brittle so I can nip it off on my vise. Although it's small enough, I'm starting to think I might end up using my hot cut hardy instead. Normally for something like this, cold cut was fine, but we'll see. It's cutting like this, the way it works is like when you take a pop tab, and you wiggle it back and forth until it gets brittle and breaks off. It's basically what I'm doing here. See how I've notched it? That little bit in between has gotten a lot of stress now. So, all goes well. If my vice cooperates, should be able to just snap it off at that spot. We'll see. Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
It tears off a little bit there.
Yeah. Very cool. Wow.
Yeah. That goes in my scrap pile. So now I've got these two. Oh, where did the other one go? Here it is. There's some jobs where I'll only make it once. This is one of those only make it once kind of jobs. So I got a couple of rules that I can sort of use to ballpark sizes. Instead of having lots of these that were pre-cut. For a rivet like this, I want the top of it to basically be 1.5 times the width of it. So I'm going to just eyeball it right about there, about the top of that chop. So I'm going to cut it right there. Did you hear that sizzle while it was in my fingers? Yeah. Probably not the smartest way to have gone about it, but once you have enough scar tissue, you sort of stop noticing.
Bit of resistance, I guess.
Yeah, well, actually, sort of see my hands here. There's calluses under blisters under calluses. So it actually, when I have gotten burns here, it's been because I picked something up and I didn't feel how hot it was at first because it had to work its way through a couple of layers of skin. Then I go, oh yeah, I shouldn't touch that. So, but no, you do learn. Safety is a big part about doing this job, but a big part of safety for a trade like this is the knowledge of doesn't work. Like, I am confident enough in my hammering skills that I knew I wasn't going to hit my thumb doing that, right? Someone else who is just getting started, probably they might want to take a saw and do this. But just nip that off just like that. I'm going to clean up the rivet just a little bit. No, I'm actually going to come over here. Clean up the rivet with a file just a little bit, just so that everything's nice and tidy as I go along. So Blacksmithing, it's not about strength, it's not about power, it's about finesse and detail. You get a workout doing this job sometimes, especially on big heavy jobs, but accuracy and technique are much more important. So this is a small, little, tiny detail in it. Didn't really need to do that. Could have run away with it anyway. But it's just going to give me a slightly nicer finish. Same with...
You smoothed it out, so
just so it doesn't have that ragged edge on the end.
I see. Yeah.
So that'll be a little smoother. I could just hammer this flat when I'm riveting it, and that would end up with a rivet. I like that. You see how that's sort of matched in? That's a pair of tongs. That's fine. This is a tool. I want it to look a little nicer, so I have this tool that this will sit in while I rivet it. So that will have a slightly rounder head. And I have this I can put on top of it to round it out a bit. I probably will not use this one. I'll probably just do that one by hand because I've got two sort of skinny pieces. It can be a little more awkward. It's going to be a little fiddly to use that one. But I will use this bottom. So. Now I can cool these off. I'm going to be heating them up again in a second. But the rivets are very soft. I don't need to do this hot. This I can do cold. Or at least I can do it cold to start. Yeah, that should work. So I'm going to take a little bit of time just to make sure I get everything lined up nicely. I don't want it to jump away on me. You do a lot of problem solving. That's one of the things I really enjoy about blacksmithing, is that you're sort of figuring it out as you go. How to make it an effective solution, how to make something functional, but you also still want it to look nice. You still want it to be a practical, functional, or beautiful project. If I were to just run this really hard, it would start kind of deflecting. It's deflecting a little bit, but that's okay. Now that I've got it in place, now I can heat it up and do a little more work. This is our blacksmith shop. I'm making a pair of tongs for a fire pit. So they're not quite done yet, but now I can heat them up and keep working. A blacksmith is someone who makes things out of metal, out of steel. There's lots of jobs where people work with metal, but I work with steel. It's very strong, very hard metal. There's an awful lot of things you can do with it. I make horseshoes for the horses. I make tires for people's wagons. You see the tires back there? They had metal tires on wagons. A little bump here, but they're pretty strong. I could fix people's farm tools or hardware on the farm. I could fix people's sleds and sleighs. You see these right up in my ceiling here? These two long strips? Those are the runners that go along the bottom of a sleigh or a sled when you're pulling it through the snow. So I could make those right here. Or if one broke on somebody, I could fix them. Even if somebody had a car, and there were a lot more cars back then. Okay. So now these work. They're one piece all together, but still need to straighten them out a little bit. They're not quite as nice as I'd like them. I want to tune them up just a bit. And that's my job. I heat up the metal on the fire, and I can bend it and shape it and make all kinds of things that anybody needs. So in 1914, this was a really good job to have. So it would take you about maybe 7 years to learn how to do this job. And then you spend a couple more years working at it, practicing and working for other people, and then one day you can open up your own shop if you want to. But there were more horses in Ontario in 1914 than there had ever been before. So there was a lot of need for blacksmiths then.
You were the high tech on that era.
Sorry?
You were the high tech on that era.
Yes, there were a lot of, yes and no. There would have been machinists and metallurgists, so there was already, the chemistry and science of iron was fairly well understood by this point. They knew about phase and state changes, and they had, you know, the iron carbon phase diagram. They knew a lot more about it. But this was still absolutely essential skills and technology for a small town. Okay. Do that. Grab not those, grab these. Make this a bit of a twist.
And in Kitchener, it was let's community now. They were doing horse harnesses.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of leather factories here. That was one of the big things. There were also a lot of steel industries here. There was a company called Canadian Blower and Forge that was the Canadian branch of an American company that had originally done blacksmith tools. So blower and forge, this is the blower, that's the forge. But they were in town as well, making tools and equipment. What today we call HVAC. Okay, this is coming along. But yeah, so a shop like this, you could have been, I don't have a Canadian blower and forge blower, but they were making blacksmith equipment like this in what was then Berlin, Ontario.
Yeah.
They hadn't changed to Berlin, to Kitchener, still Berlin. We have this in a big industrial center, so it was a really interesting time because there would have been companies doing really fine machinist work. There would have been companies that were, you know, still making tools and equipment that someone 1,000 years before would recognize. So it's a really interesting transition.
Is it true? I was reading somewhere that this Kitchener leather actually was the main supplier for British cavalry during the First World War.
Quite possibly. I don't know about main supplier, but there were a lot of contracts. I know that there were a lot of. I think they had one for boot leather, the soles and boots. There were a lot of government contracts at all the time. So there were a lot of people in this area who were sort of exempted from conscription when that came in because they were working in essential services. Quite often a blacksmith would be one of them. So if you had, because Canada was providing an awful lot of food for the Commonwealth armies in the First World War, so a lot of farmers were exempted. Part of that was also because in the early days of the First World War, a lot of the farm laborers, like the farm hands, not the owners, but the workers on the farms, a lot of them went off to sign up right away because working on a farm for $15 a month and you know, you're sleeping in a barn with about 20 other guys who probably all smell great. That's not the best line of work. And the army, at least they've got to feed you. So there was a shortage of farm labor at the time because of that. Now I'm going to squash this in my vise just to get everything in line. I think that this is going to do it.
You got lots of tools here.
I do. The nice thing about being a blacksmith is you can make your own tools. And quite often I will need to make a tool, to make a tool, to make a tool, to do the job I actually need to do. I've done that very thing. There's a couple of tools in here that I had to make 3 other tools along the way in order. Sorry to step in front of you there, but I just need to get here for a second. No, I need more heat for that. Yeah, so a lot of problem solving goes into a job like this. So right now, I'm just trying to get the jaws of this all line up and everything to fit together nicely. But it didn't come out quite as perfectly as I'd like, but it's good enough. We work for this. So my last step is going to be a bit more of a tweak right here, and then I want to rotate these handles, and then I'll be done. So this is a pair of tongs for moving logs around in a fire pit. And we're nearly there. There we go. So for those of you who've just joined us, this is our blacksmith shop. This is where we do all the metal work. So So most of what you'd be doing in a small shop like this would be shoeing horses. That'd be the main responsibility. But there would also be a lot of work preparing carts, carriages, wagons. Do this by now. Okay. Now I can close up the jaws at the end. That was actually a bit much. The vise is very handy. It's really nice and straight out. The only problem with the vise is that it's hungry. It's very, very hungry, and it likes to eat fingers. So you have to watch out if it wants to do that to you. So you do have to be careful with this. Part of blacksmithing is knowing how to do this all safely. I've got the safety goggles, but they wouldn't. A blacksmith probably would have been wearing safety goggles in 1914. They had things like safety goggles, probably for different trades. Shop like this, you probably would have them unless you just had your own eyeglasses. But a lot of people are surprised when they see I'm not wearing gloves. There are some jobs I'll wear gloves for. There are some jobs where the gloves will be more dangerous, because I might have something fall inside the glove. So it really depends on what I'm working with. So doing this job is a lot about knowing how to do it safely, but also understanding that there is a degree of risk, and doing this job is okay. I don't have this one, there we go.
You need the tool for that.
Well, there was a tool I used to have, but I forgot that it went away a long time ago, so always different ways to do it. Okay, almost there. The ribbon didn't do exactly what I wanted it to, but oh well, I'll work with it. Go. Just about. Okay. So, I think it's just about done. Last question. Does anybody have a toothache? Toothache? Okay, yeah, we'll see what we can do. Yes, did you have a question?
How do you get that orange part to change color back to the metal?
Oh, so the reason it's so brightly colored is because of the heat. So if I heat it up, the metal starts to glow. When you know the old style light bulbs that have the little filament in them, they get really, really hot when you touch them? Not like the LED bulbs, but the old ones. That's because they're putting so much energy through it that it's getting so hot that it starts glowing. Basically the same thing is happening here. There's so much energy, there's so much heat that it starts glowing.
I see.
That's what tells me if it's hot enough for me to shape it and bend it. So when it's really, really hot, the metal starts to get soft. You know how when you heat up an ice cube, it turns into water? Well, when you heat up this enough, it starts getting softer and softer and softer. Basically, the same thing is happening as what happens with the ice cube, just at sort of a different scale with different materials. But this gets softer and softer, kind of like if you leave a chocolate bar in the freezer, it'll break and shatter and chip. But if you leave it in your car in the summer, it gets really soft and melted. Same thing's happening with the steel. So I can bend it and shape it when it's soft like that. And now I have a pair of tongs that I can use to move around logs in a fire pit. That's what these are. So this has been my big project for the day. Let's see, do I have any logs? We gotta test it. Here we go. There we go, works beautifully. Yeah. So, this is going to be for one of the fire pits for when we have an event this coming on this Saturday. Because the last couple of years, people have come and grabbed some of my tongs into the shop, and I want the tongs. So, here we go. So I'm going to put these right here. And does anybody know the time?